No, this year. Instead, we're going to be a Mario-themed family. So Damascus is going to be Mario, I am going to be Luigi, and Margaret is going to be Princess Peach. So it's going to be adorable. But for now, I am the flamingo. So there's the flamingo, and then I have this whiskey. It's an Irish peat. It is very strong. I will absolutely be drunk by the end of this. If I can finish this glass. I don't know if I can. I'm a lightweight these days. But I'm also going to be going over a couple things for NBA, maybe. Talking about the optimizer and answering a couple questions on that because I did do some updates to that optimizer. So, yeah. Win ASMR. I don't know that I have a good enough voice to do ASMR, but maybe I do. Maybe I should get into the ASMR streaming. Maybe I should talk a little bit about things that don't matter. Just tell people that everything is okay. Hold on, let's try this really quick. Hold on. I'm gonna go to starting soon, and then we're gonna do some ASMR.
I don't know if this is working, but I hope that everyone is having a wonderful night tonight. You're fantastic, and I appreciate you.
And that's been the ASMR. So there you go. Yeah, that's my ASMR for the day, answering the question of Win ASMR. You have a secret ASMR channel opening cards. That's fantastic. That's pretty cool. I didn't actually know about that. People have mysterious things. All right. Well.
To be fair, ASMR is whispering, not just like talking really close to a mic.
Well, I don't. Okay. All right.
So
okay.
people can like hear your weird, gross mouth sounds. I don't know why people like ASMR. I'm like a total misophonia, like.
Well, are you on my stream?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then you're gonna.
I watch you every time.
Okay. Well, then you're
That's
gonna hear me.
That's why I came in here and let you know that you were doing it wrong.
You're gonna hear me do ASMR right now. Then. Okay. We're gonna try ASMR again. Here we go.
Okay, here is some ASMR. I'm whispering into the microphone because Margaret decided to come in here and tell me that I was wrong about everything in my life. So, she's right. This is ASMR. This has been James McCool, ASMR.
Did I do it right? I hope I did it right this time. Because if I didn't, then Margaret's going to tell me that I'm wrong again, and I just can't handle that kind of thing. I have to be right at least 75% of the time in this household. So... Oh, was that good? Sweet. All right. Yeah, starting the ASMR channel. Pretty cool. All right. Well, now that we've gotten the ASMR out of the way, let's jump into some NFL. Let's talk about a little bit of NFL here. So let's go into the Vegas lines first. It's what we do every single week. We're going to talk about the games and their live over-unders from highest to lowest. I go over to the NFL Vegas tab over at Fantasy Labs. I think they do it a good job. Oh, hey, I did it right this time. Thanks, baby. I'm glad that I did it right. And I hope you hated it, because you absolutely hate that kind of thing. So, anyway, we are on the Fantasy Labs NFL Vegas tab here. We're going to talk Vegas lines, over-unders, from top to bottom. So, as we're looking at this, the top overall over-under is going to be this Dallas Cowboys and Minnesota Vikings game, sitting at 52. This, I'm surprised, has not dropped down farther with Dak Prescott news. That kind of leads me to believe that he's going to be in and that he's not actually going to miss this game. If he was going to miss this game, the over-under would have absolutely plummeted, like dropped off the face of the planet. Now, granted, the Vikings are now favorites. They opened as 1-point underdogs and are now 3-point favorites. So that certainly speaks to something being wrong with Dak, of course. But considering the over-under is still sitting at 52, I absolutely do not think that Dak is going to miss this game. That's only a 1-point drop. He's got to be worth more than that. Okay, Dark Sheep, have a good one, man. So I think he still plays this game. Obviously, this is going to be a very popular spot in DFS, even though I don't know if it should be. We'll talk about it when we get to the actual projections and the stacks and the models, but I don't think this game should be focused on for DFS, and I'll talk about why later. The next game, we have this New York and Kansas City Chiefs game, which is sitting at 51.5. This is the Monday night game. We don't really care about it for the purpose of this stream, but it has dropped 1 point. And the Chiefs are 10-point favorites, so that's likely deserved and just not a game that we really care about for this slate. We have the Titans and the Colts, which actually opened at 47.5 and has shot all the way up to 51 on the over-under. So that's a 3.5 point boost. They got 61% of the bets on the over there to push it up. So it's a public bet, but like that's still a pretty large boost and something worth saying. Colts are 2.5 point favorites. They open up as 1 point underdogs. So some smart money, some sharp money coming on them to flip them over to favorites. I would be surprised if it hits 3. I think it probably closes somewhere around 2 to 2.5 point favorites for them. But that's a pretty good spot. Green Bay, Arizona happened on Thursday night. Green Bay won because Aaron Rodgers is awesome. And then we have the Patriots and the Chargers, which opened at 47.5, sitting at 49.5 now. Another public over. 65% of the bets are on the over on this game. The Chargers went from 6-point favorites to 4.5 point favorites with split bets. So there's very likely some sharper money on the Patriots to stay in this game at the very least. Again, I don't know that this reaches past like the 4 or 3.5 point mark. I just don't see that happening. So I think the 4.5 probably stays there, but there seems to be some inclination that the Patriots are going to stay in this game. So that's something worth noting. If I go over and I look at the pass efficiency metrics, let's see. Yeah, this game looks relatively close. It's one of the smaller discrepancies on the slate. The only other 2 games that have a closer discrepancy are Tennessee, Indiana, and Seattle, Jacksonville. So this game should be close, and I think that it's probably going to be a little bit better for DFS than people think. We have the Bills and the Dolphins sitting here with a 49 over-under. 62% of the bets on the over, but it's dropped half a point, so that's a little bit noticeable. The Bills are 14-point favorites here, 69% of the bets on them. That's fair. I mean, that's fair. Usually I don't like saying that a team deserves to be this big of a favorite. It's just hard to cover that kind of thing. But the Bills are just such a well-rounded, good team that this is a spot where I feel comfortable just letting them be 14-point favorites. That said, like, I don't know how good they're going to be for DFS because of that, because my models take that kind of thing into account. Who knows how much they're going to be passing in the second half. So the Eagles at the Lions, 48.5 over-under. 59% of the bets on the under, but it hasn't budged. Eagles are 3.5 point favorites, only getting 26% of the bets as favorites here, which is funny. But that has moved the line from 3 to 3.5. So there's some smarter people on the Eagles to cover that. Maybe not win by a bunch, but to at least cover that. And when I look over in the pass efficiency metrics, Philadelphia has a pretty demanding lead on them overall, but 3.5 point favorites, that's pretty close. I would think that this should be a little bit farther in Philadelphia's favor, but they are the road team, I guess, and Detroit has not played absolutely terribly. So I guess 3.5 makes sense. I'd prefer to bet the Eagles, though. Next, we have the Bucks and the Saints. This game opened at 50.5 and has dropped down to 48.5. 2 points down, split bets. That's notable. So that we should expect this game to be a little bit less exciting, I guess, according to these Vegas movements. The Bucks are only 4.5 point favorites, and I kind of think that that's absolutely fucking stupid. Sean Payton is a good coach, and the Saints have been a good team. But the Saints have been a good team in that they have been able to control the ball and kind of control the pace of the game and do their thing. And the Bucks aren't going to just let them do that. Tom Brady is having, arguably his best season, which is fucking stupid. And he's just crushing it. Sure, Antonio Brown is out, but they likely get Rob Gronkowski back. 4.5 point favorites for the Bucks. That's crazy. I would think that this line would be at least 6.5, more like 7.5. They are the largest discrepancy here in terms of pass efficiency differences. I can't see how Tampa Bay is not bigger favorites here. So just fucking slam the spread on that. For sure. Going down to this next one, we have Carolina and Atlanta. Carolina is a 3-point underdog to Atlanta. Atlanta is playing at home, so that makes sense. This game is essentially a pick 'em, right? Over-under is 47. It's pretty much split bets. There's not really much to say here. We'll talk more during like the stacks and during the projections part of things, but like for the most part, it's just not a game that I'm super high on. I think people are going to be looking at this game and saying, "Oh, well, there's pieces that are undervalued," and I think they'll probably actually be overvalued. So, going to the next one, we have the Rams and the Texans, and this game is not on the slate either, but it is a 46 over/under. 71% of the bets are on the Rams to cover a 14.5 to 15 spread, which is wild, but it is Davis Mills leading the Texans still. If they have Tyrod back, like this game would be closer, I think, because Tyrod has actually been decent for them. But Davis Mills is not. So 15-point underdogs on the Texans. That's going to be a fun showdown. And when I say fun, I mean terrible. We have the Jaguars and the Seahawks. And this game opened up at 43, has jumped up to 45. 64% of the bets on the over, so it's public bet over. Seahawks are 3.5-point favorites. I don't know if they should be. Like, this game, they're 3.5-point favorites because they're at home. This is a pick 'em. But there's value on the Jags. I think. The Seahawks have not shown that they can win without Russell Wilson. They have been an absolute shell of a team. Pete Carroll has been getting outcoached. It's been bad. So I like the Jaguars straight up here, I think. I don't mind taking a shot on them. This game is as close as it gets. We have Washington at the Broncos. The Broncos should probably be favored here, but not by much, so that makes sense. They're only 3-point favorites here. This over-under is 45. We're kind of getting into these kind of like shittier games that aren't all that exciting and aren't all that great for DFS. So there's going to be things to like. Jerry Jeudy does come back from IR here. That's going to kind of hurt Cortland Sutton, of course, but Terry McLaurin is still awesome. So there's going to be things to like in this game, but probably not a game to really go all in on. With the Bengals and the Jets, this game's only a 43 over-under. It's gone down from 44. The Bengals went from 8.5-point favorites to 11.5-point favorites. And 88% of the bets have been on the Bengals to cover 8.5 to 11.5. I mean, I guess I don't want to put money on 11.5 on the Bengals. I don't. I get it. I understand. Like, this Mike White person didn't seem incredible in his debut, but I digress. Yeah, 11-point favorites for the Bengals. So that's interesting. When we look at pass efficiency, like, they deserve to be favorites, but I would think like 8-point favorites here. Like, where it opened, that made more sense. Steelers and Browns. This game should suck. 42.5 over under. It's been bet down from 43. Browns 5.5-point favorites. They get Nick Chubb back. They still don't have Kareem Hunt. They get Baker Mayfield back. That's not really that much different than Case Keenum. So, this game should just be boring. And then we have the 49ers and the Bears. A 39.5-point over-under. This game, again, should mostly just suck, right? Like, I don't have any reason to like this game. San Francisco should be larger favorites than 3.5 points, though. So if you wanted to take their spread, I wouldn't really hate it. As we're like looking at this, I think you can cross off, like, let's count the games you can cross off. You don't care about the San Francisco-Chicago game. You don't care about the 42.5-point over-under for the Steelers and the Browns. You very likely don't care much about this Bengals-Jets game, even though Corey Davis being out does mean that a bring back on the Jets makes it easier, but can you really trust Mike White? So there's 3 games. You can probably cross off this game. It's 45 over-under, and Cortland Sutton is hurt by Jerry Jeudy. The Jaguars-Seahawks probably sucks. Yeah, I mean, you can cross off a lot of games on this slate already. There's still a lot of games that you can use, but you can cross off a whole bunch of games here. It's going to make for a nice slate. Even though it is a 12-game slate, I think that there are plenty of opportunities here to kind of fade away from the chalk and be a little bit different. So, yeah. God, I can't drink anymore, man. I'm so bad at it. I'm like the anti-Grant Neefer. All right. So now we're going to jump into the models. For those who have not tuned in the stream before, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through the models. We're going to go through the stacks. We're going to go through each game, and then we're going to talk about how to stack it, how I would attack it, my thoughts on what is going to happen in each game, and we'll go over a little bit of the projections and how much it costs to do certain things, and then we'll move on to the individual projections, and we'll look at the leverage scores involved. So this is where we're going to actually break into the models a little bit. Wow, that really darkens things up, doesn't it? All right. Anyway, so this is the pass efficiency table that I was looking at before when I was talking through the over-unders. So it just shows the efficiency difference. Like, this is why I think Tampa Bay should just be a massive favorite here. Like, their efficiency difference is just gigantic. They're only 4.5-point favorites. Carolina should be favored over Atlanta, according to the pass efficiency stuff. Tennessee should be favored or at least a pick 'em with Indianapolis. But both those games make sense. I mean, again, it's Carolina at Atlanta, so this is about right. They're about to pick 'em. I would say that Carolina should be a little bit bigger of a favorite, and it is Tennessee at Indianapolis, so this makes sense a little bit. They're only a slight favorite, but like Seattle over Jacksonville, this game should be a pick 'em. The Chargers in New England, like this game should be pretty close. So this is included in the models as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit about stacks. Right, we're going to go over each individual game as well. So actually, let me bring this up so that I have this for reference. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about each game individually, not each stack. So, I mean, each game is really just deciding what side of the game you want to stack. So this Tampa Bay New Orleans game, we'll start with this. Obviously, I'm doing DraftKings here. If you want the FanDuel and the Yahoo projections, those are also on the site. But Tampa Bay projects the best of any team here at 65.97. New Orleans projects as the 5th worst at 41.29. New Orleans just doesn't pass that much, man. Like, they have a really low pass rate. So if we go in and we look at the pass splits, like, New Orleans is sitting here at an adjusted pass rate of just 54%. It's second worst in the entire league right now, whereas Tampa Bay is sitting third best at 74.81%. When we look at red zone splits, like Tampa Bay has not been as pass heavy, and that's notable because they were really, really pass heavy last year. They're still sitting at 59%. New Orleans is sitting a little bit lower at 52.94%, but still New Orleans is a little bit lower. So when we look at the passing rates, like there's just not a lot of upside for New Orleans. They're just not a team that really wants to pass when they're in the red zone. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, they are fine passing in the red zone, and they're so good at passing between the 20s that like their projection is just so good. They are missing Antonio Brown this week, so Chris Godwin is going to step up again. They should get Rob Gronkowski back, so that should be a boon as well to this offense. I don't think they're going to struggle at all without Antonio Brown. Chris Godwin is plenty capable to step into that role. And then Mike Evans is obviously still Mike Evans. So Tampa Bay is going to be one of the top stacks on the week. It's not close. Like, you're just going to have to consider them. What you do with Tampa Bay is going to be really important because they are going to be highly owned. Chris Godwin is very likely to be very highly owned again. Mike Evans is going to be higher owned this week. He wasn't high owned enough last week, but there is going to be ownership on them. When we're looking at the New Orleans side, they just brought in Mark Ingram, so that's going to hurt Alvin Kamara and his red zone opportunities. And even though he's been getting a lot of the rushing work, he hasn't been getting the receiving work. So this might be a really, really big hit to Alvin Kamara, and I don't know that you want to take the risk on him. Outside of him, Marquez Callaway maintaining wide receiver 1 status with Traquan Smith back, but Traquan Smith and Marquez Callaway both usable, both cheap enough to where you can consider them for bringbacks, and those would be the only guys that I would consider in a bringback here. So last week, I did Tampa Bay without any Chicago bringback. I did consider Cole Kmet, but I ended up switching to Foster Moreau once we got confirmation that Darren Waller was out. So I might just run a naked Tampa Bay stack again and not bring anybody back. I don't know if I am super into the idea of having Marquez Callaway or Traquan Smith, but maybe I am. Maybe I end up going something like Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, and Rob Gronkowski and bringing back Marquez Callaway. That might be what I'm super into. I don't know. I'll research more tonight. But I definitely like Tampa Bay stack more. That's not even really a question. Let's go on to this next one. We have the Chargers and the Patriots. So the Chargers project well here. They project for 63.96 with the algorithmic stack, which is the stack that the models think is the best and has the highest upside based on the projections. And then New England is still sitting. I mean, they're better now, right? They're the 10th highest stack. They used to be really, really low, but they've been really good over the last couple weeks. So if we go and look at the pass splits, the Chargers have been 75% in the adjusted pass percentages, which is really good. Second highest. New England is still not, super high, but sitting at 69.42%. Pretty good. Top 10, they've kind of been letting it rip. Mac Jones has been getting a little bit more acquainted with the offense and feeling more comfortable. So New England actually has been taking some steps up. If we look in the red zone, the Chargers, let's see, where are the Chargers at? Chargers 56.82%. New England sitting at 50.98%. So not necessarily a great passing stack for either side, but because of the volume that the Chargers have between the 20s and because of the upside that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both have based on either volume or ADOT, they're still going to make a good stack. You can bring it back with Jacoby Myers really, really easily and not have any problems with that. The New England side, I think the New England side is interesting because it's really cheap, right? I mean, when we look at the 5X percentage, they're sitting at 17%. If we try to build out a Chargers stack, so we go Justin Herbert, we'd go Mike Williams, and I mean, honestly, probably you're going to be going with, who's their old-ass tight end here? Why can I not remember his name? Jared Cook. Yeah, Jared Cook's like 100. Go Jared Cook. And then we'll bring it back to Jacoby Myers, which I think just makes the most sense here. That only costs 23.5, has a projection of 125.86 and a leverage score of 9.74. If we go with this was the Charger stack, right? So this costs 23.5. If we go with the New England stack, which would be Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, and Jonnu Smith, this only costs 21.8, and it has a projection of 68. What was the last one? Yeah, it actually has a higher projection. Wow, it has a higher projection. That's crazy. So yeah, Mac Jones, and then you go with Jonnu Smith. Yeah, that has a higher projection. Leverage score is still the same, around 9%. The ownership is only 18% here, and it's cheaper. So, this might actually be the way that you want to go. You might actually want to do a New England stack rather than doing a Charger stack. It's going to afford you a lot more on your secondary pieces. So, that's an interesting thing to think about. When I write out the notes, I'll consider a little bit more tomorrow about what I want to do with this spot. But New England is really enticing. They've been passing a lot more. They've looked a lot better. And against the Chargers, I think this is a spot where they have to be up pace. It's a low-owned spot, and it has just as much upside as the Charger stack. So, pretty interesting spot there. Next team that we have Philadelphia, and they are facing the Lions. That's not awesome. But Philadelphia projects super duper well. They project for 59.77. That's Jalen Hurts, Quez Watkins, and Devontae Smith. The model is still liking Quez Watkins. He's still getting really high upside targets and really, really valuable targets. It's dropped down Dallas Goedert behind Devontae Smith as the secondary piece of this stack. So it's wanting you to do Jalen Hurts, Quez Watkins, Devontae Smith. Now, I don't mind using Dallas Goedert if you're doing a Philadelphia stack. He projects fine. It's just high owned, and Devontae Smith has a higher ceiling. So, user discretion there. They are facing the Lions. Lions project second worst stack. Khalif Raymond has been good for the Lions, right? TJ Hawkinson has been okay for the Lions. I don't mind doing Philadelphia and then coming back with Khalif Raymond. I think it's really, really cheap too, right? So we'll go Jalen Hurts. We'll do Quez Watkins. And let's just go with Dallas Goedert here. And then we'll bring it back with Khalif Raymond. So that costs 21.2, has a projection of 72, a ceiling 137, and and the LevX is 11.01. So because you have such low-owned pieces here with Quez Watkins and Khalif Raymond, you can eat all the rest of the chalk on the slate and still be fine. Like, you can just plug in whatever high-owned pieces you want here, and you're going to be fine in terms of leverage. This is a low-owned enough stack to make it all work. And it has a lot of upside. Jalen Hurts, I don't think that people realize... Like, people think that Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback and really good for fantasy, but, like, I don't think that people realize just how much upside he has. He has as much upside as Lamar Jackson on any given slate. So I think that I will certainly have a Philadelphia stack. I'll be caught dead with a Detroit Lions stack, but I'll certainly have a Philadelphia stack. Quick disclaimer. I have drank maybe 2 shots of this. I am already slurring. So the next 25 minutes is gonna be pretty interesting. So don't be an asshole if I end up actually being drunk here. Anyway, continuing on. Next game, we have this Indianapolis game, and this is Indianapolis, Tennessee. So Julio Jones got ruled out. It's pretty much just A.J. Brown, and then secondary wide receivers. It's going to be A.J. Brown. Secondary wide receiver is going to be Josh Reynolds. And then Westbrook-Akeen, I think, is going to be the third wide receiver for them. Obviously, more people are going to be on Derrick Henry here. But, Tennessee... I mean, one of the best ways to get leverage on any slate where Derrick Henry is going to be popular is just by stacking Tennessee. I don't know if there's enough value here on this slate to make Derrick Henry a super high-owned play. I mean, I guess we can go over and look in the ranges. Derrick Henry doesn't look like he's going to be super high-owned here. It looks like more people are on Darrell Henderson. More people are on Kenneth Gainwell. More people are on Joe Mixon. So, Derrick Henry is probably just the right way to go here for Tennessee, but if you don't want to go there, going with Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Josh Reynolds, that's going to be a pretty high upside spot if they want to actually pass in the red zone. Indianapolis, on the other hand, they've been really, really good. I don't think people know how good Indianapolis has been, but ever since T.Y. Hilton came back for 1 week, he looked really, really good. Carson Wentz has looked fantastic 4 weeks straight. Michael Pittman Jr. has been really good. Paris Campbell is on the IR. So I think that the target tree is going to be skinny enough here to make it work. Carson Wentz, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr. is a pretty good combination here, and I think it has plenty of upside. You could bring it back with A.J. Brown as a very easy comeback option and make a great stack here that I don't think is going to be high-owned at all. So let's build that out really quick. Carson Wentz with T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr., and then bring it back with A.J. Brown. Well, I guess there's some ownership here, isn't there? Michael Pittman Jr., 17% owned. I think A.J. Brown is going to be way higher than this. I think A.J. Brown probably ends up like 25% owned, but T.Y. Hilton at low ownership is nice. Carson Wentz at low ownership is nice as well. This 4-man stack costs 22.8 and projects for 69 with ceiling 135. So the ceiling is really, really nice here, right? All these wide receivers project for over a 30 fantasy point ceiling. And I think that's actually an interesting way to go. I don't know how many people go there. I don't know if I will go there. But Indianapolis, I think they're being underrated here. I don't think people have really paid attention to them. See, next stack, Buffalo. So Buffalo would be higher here for sure. But they're just massive, massive, massive favorites. So the model doesn't really think that they're going to need to do much. If we go over and we look at the Vegas baselines, they have a team total of 31.5, but I only have them project 30 passing attempts and 30 rushing attempts. So 2.26 passing touchdowns, 1.24 rushing touchdowns. They have the second highest total touchdowns on the slate right behind the Rams, but I just don't have them for that many passing attempts. They're such huge favorites, they shouldn't have to pass that much in the second half. So I don't have them projected all that high. Now, if they weren't that high of favorites, they would probably be the highest overall projected stack just because Josh Allen has so much rushing upside and so much passing upside. So keep that in mind. If you think that Buffalo is going to be not quite as big of a favorite, if you think that Houston is able to hang around, Buffalo should project better. That being said, if Houston is able to stay with them, it likely means that Buffalo just isn't scoring very much. So keep that in mind. I don't know how good of a stack Buffalo is. Josh Allen is always very good. Stephon Diggs is always very good. Emmanuel Sanders, totally fine. With Houston, you can bring it back easy with Brandon Cooks. Maybe you just do a secondary stack of Stephon Diggs and Brandon Cooks and just leave it at that. But I don't really like Buffalo stacks all that much. I don't really want to stack a team that is that big of favorites and that I expect to run in the second half. That said, they are the 5th highest stack here. If you go Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Emmanuel Sanders to bring it back with Brandon Cooks, I'm not going to be mad at you. On to this next one, we have Cincinnati. Cincinnati also really, really big favorites here. I think they're 11-point favorites over the Jets, who are going to be starting Mike White. Joe Flacco not quite ready to start in place of Zach Wilson. So, Bengals implied to score 26.75 points. Joe Mixon deserves to be very popular this week. That said, he never projects well for me. I just can't get him to project well. Cincinnati, still 73% pass rate, one of the highest pass rates in the league. I still have them, even as 11-point favorites, for 36 passing attempts and 22 rushing attempts, 2.2 passing touchdowns, only 0.8 rushing touchdowns. So I want to use Joe Mixon. I want to be high on him. I know the industry is going to be high on him. I think he's going to be one of the highest owned players on the slate, but Cincinnati, I'd almost rather just go with another Cincinnati stack like we had last week, right? That just makes sense. The problem is that, if you're bringing it back with anybody, I guess you bring back Jameson Crowder if you trust Mike White, or you can just go with naked. You can just go Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins and just not bring anybody back if you don't want to. I wouldn't really hate that. You could also do Jamar Chase, bring it back with Denzel Mims or Jameson Crowder. Denzel Mims actually looks like he has a higher ceiling here than Jameson Crowder does, so he's the one that you would want, I guess. That's what the models are saying, which is interesting, but I don't question the models. Let the Cole Beasley hate commence. Yeah, Cole Beasley's a fucking moron. That guy just sucks. I was talking to my mom last night about anti-vaxxers and, how I can't understand how you can be anti-vax in the 21st century. Imagine if there were anti-vaxxers when polio was around. It would have wiped out the fucking continent. It would have been terrible. So Cole Beasley is a moron. Moving on, we have Atlanta. So they're facing Carolina. Both teams project okay. Atlanta projects 51.79. Carolina projects for 48.37. Something of note, last week, I talked to Blender on Monday about how the Sharps were mostly fading Cordero Patterson, which, I guess I understand that with Calvin Ridley coming back, but then he maintained a lot of what made him really, really valuable, and he didn't get a price bump, and now he's going to be popular again, and I think that, you probably just go back in on that. He just wasn't high-owned last week, and this week he's going to be one of the higher-owned pieces, it looks like, so I don't know how much I love going back to him when he's going to be higher owned, but at 6,200, it's hard to pass up on that. He has a massive portion of the target share. He has now the lead back roll, so he's getting the majority of the rushing attempts. So, I'm fine going back to that for sure. It was just interesting that Sharps faded him last week. I don't think Sharps are going to fade him this week. So, Atlanta, the way that I would do this, I just go Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and Cordell Patterson. I don't think they're... Or you could do, if you really wanted to fuck around, you could go Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts, and Cordell Patterson and fade Calvin Ridley. I don't hate that either. That makes for a really interesting build. Look how interesting this build path is. If you go Matt Ryan, Cordero... I'm going to fucking butcher this. Cordero... Is it 1R... Damn it. Hold on. Damn it. Hold on. Damn it. Okay, whatever. Hold on. Cancel. It's like when you're on the phone. Okay. Oh, come on. It's 2 E's. I was so close. All right. And then you go with Kyle Pitts. And then you go with a comeback of DJ Moore. This is super, super interesting, right? So you go with a quarterback, running back, tight end stack. right? You go with Matt Ryan, Cordell Patterson, and Kyle Pitts, and you bring it back with DJ Moore. Now, this is expensive. Or I guess you could bring it back with Robbie Anderson. Like, let's just go way off fucking rails here. Bring it back with Robbie Anderson, and you spend 23.1. You have a ceiling of 111, and you have ownership of 34, but nobody is going to build this way. Like, nobody is going to build in this really, really interesting format. You can go DJ Moore, right? And then that gives you a more respectable projection and ceiling, 65 to 127, 36% ownership, 1.39% Lev X. It's just super interesting. Like, I think that because of the way that you build that, nobody's going to have that. It gives you plenty of leverage just because you have that stack. So, yeah. Strong. If doing B-Water stack with Sutton, B-Water, would you go with Font or real cheap Judy, a little worried on snap count, bring back McLaurin? Or go with Bridgewater, Sutton, Judy, bring back RSJ. Davis was completely phased out last week. Yeah, so regarding the Bridgewater with who you would stack with, who do the models like? I'm going to isolate Denver here. Okay, so I have Sutton projected for 13, Jerry Jeudy projected for 6. I don't know. That's hard. Like, Jerry Jeudy is going to eat so much into that Cortland Sutton upside. Sutton still has a 28.8 projected ceiling, but Jerry Jeudy is going to eat into it. I just don't think that I love doing any part of that. Like, the reason why we got on Denver in the first place and the reason why the models loved them so much was because Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant had so much of the target share. It was really, really easy. It was a really narrow target tree. It's not that way anymore. So Denver probably just isn't a stack that we want to go with. You can do secondary stacks with Cortland Sutton and Terry McLaurin. I don't mind that. But I'm not stacking Denver. And frankly, if I'm going to be doing anything in that game, it's going to be stacking Washington with Terry McLaurin and RSJ and bringing it back with Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy if you want to be weird. But I just don't think that I'm interested in that game. Like, Jerry Jeudy coming back in that offense is a major hit to the upside and medians of all of the players projected. So I just don't love it. Yeah, I'm feeling it, man. I'm about halfway through that drink, and I am absolutely just blitzed. If fade Ridley and expect Patterson to see more top targets on top of rushing production, ready for Anderson to catch 2 on 8 targets for 30 yards. Fuck you, man. He had 11 receiving yards on 11 targets. And he was like 1% owned, and I was all over him. The models were all over him. The community was all over him, and he just failed. It just sucks. Ridley projects well. He projects for 20. And it's not that he projects badly. Kyle Pitts projects for 11 with a ceiling of 25, a floor of 0. It's just interesting. I think that I don't necessarily think that it is the right move to fade Ridley for Pitts, but I think that the build path allows you some really, really interesting things. So I think it's worth playing around with. You know, when you build with a running back and a tight end for your stack instead of a wide receiver, or wide receiver, tight end, you have so much room. You can almost do 2 different secondary correlations then, right? Because then you could do a wide receiver correlation and then a wide receiver running back correlation with another secondary. So, like, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting stuff. Let's see. So yeah, it's just interesting. Let's jump back into things. So next game, I just talked about Washington. I talked about Washington and Denver just now. I think that I probably prefer Washington if I'm going to stack it. It does have a high Lev X, 15. It does have a high 5X percentage at 13%. Projection is okay at 50. Denver just it took a massive hit. So Denver has been projecting in the top 5 for a couple weeks now. Those that have been paying attention, and it's just not that way now. So Seattle, I'm just not interested. I'm just not. I mean, I guess you can do a secondary stack. If you want to do DK Metcalf with Marvin Jones, I don't hate it. If you want to do DK Metcalf with Jamal Agnew, I don't hate it. But I just don't see Geno Smith outscoring Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Matt Ryan, even Mac Jones. Like, I think that Mac Jones is even a better like quarterback than Geno Smith. I just don't think that you need Geno Smith. Trevor Lawrence, I mean, even if we go and we look at quarterback ranges, Trevor Lawrence projecting for 21 with a ceiling of 38. Geno Smith only at 18 for a ceiling of 34. So, like, I certainly prefer, if you're going to do anything, going with a Jacksonville stack, going with Trevor Lawrence, Marvin Jones, Jamal Agnew, and bringing it back with DK Metcalf. That would be the way that I would do it. I just don't have any interest in trusting Geno Smith to do anything. That Pete Carroll's an idiot, and Geno Smith is not high upside enough and good enough to make up for it. So I'm off of Seattle. I don't mind secondary stacks of DK Metcalf and Marvin Jones or Jamal Agnew. I don't mind a Jacksonville stack with a DK Metcalf bringback, but like I'm not touching Geno Smith. New Orleans, we already talked about, New England. We already talked about New England here. I like them as a stack a lot, actually, this week. Carolina, we already talked about. But, well, I mean, we didn't really talk that much about the Carolina side. I wouldn't stack the Carolina side. I would stack the Atlanta side, but I wouldn't stack the Carolina side. Sam Darnold versus Matt Ryan, the pieces here, like trusting Darnold to keep Moore and Anderson both happy and with upside, like I just trust Matt Ryan more. And I think the models trust him more too. If we go over into the QB ranges, let's see. Sam Darnold projects for 19.67 with a ceiling of 36. Matt Ryan, 20 with ceiling of 36. So I guess they're basically the same, but I don't know. I would prefer to stack the Atlanta side, especially because you can get so weird with that Atlanta side that I think that that's really interesting. And I think that it's something that you should look into and at least consider when you're jumping into things. The Rams. Okay, so the Rams are pretty much like the only other stack that I really care to talk about. And the reason for it is because they are a run-heavy team that has had a lot of success running or passing the ball in the red zone. So if we go over and we look at the pass splits, the Rams are actually like middle of the pack in pass rate. Adjusted pass rate, they're at 64%. That's basically middle of the road. And then when we go into the red zone splits, like they're higher. They're 66%. So they're top 5. They're the 5th highest. They've just been so efficient at passing when they get in the red zone. So when we look at the Vegas baselines, the Rams have the highest team total, 31.5. They're projected for 29 pass plays, 31 rush plays, 2.26 passing touchdowns, and 1.26 rushing touchdowns. The thing is that Matt Stafford is just not projected very high because they are so good when it comes to rushing the ball, and they should have so much rushing upside here that it just kind of like makes it hard to think that they're going to find their upside. They keep finding their upside, but I don't think that they should. I think they've been overproducing. So when we go to the QB ranges and we look at Matthew Stafford, he only projects for 20.97 with a ceiling of 31. I mean, that's the 10th highest overall. He's behind Heineke. He's behind Trevor Lawrence. He's behind Bridgewater. He's behind Mac Jones. Like, I'd rather use Mac Jones than Matthew Stafford this week because I think it's a better game environment, and I think that they're a team that has more upside. The Rams are going to have a lot of ownership because Matthew Stafford is going to be paired with Cooper Kupp a lot, and I get that, but I just think that this is a letdown spot for the Rams. They are massive favorites. I don't think that they have any need to run these weird plays that they run to get Cooper Kupp touchdowns. I'm pretty low on the Rams right now, and I think I'll be low on the Rams for the next couple games. I think they have a lot of regression towards the mean. Maybe they continue scoring at will. It'll be egg on my face. I'll get fucked up by a 1,000,000% owned Cooper Kupp again, but I'm going to be on a full fade of them. On the other side, I don't have any interest in Houston. I just don't. Or not Houston. Wait, yeah, Houston, right? They're facing Houston. Yeah, they're facing Houston. I don't have any interest in Houston. Yeah, so I'm just not going to do that. I don't mind Cooper Kupp as a one-off with Brandon Cooks as a comeback, I guess. I don't mind Robert Woods with a comeback on Brandon Cooks, I guess. But I'd rather just go Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson is in another smash spot here. He should be the highest owned running back on the slate, and it would surprise me if he wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, he's projecting for 19% ownership. I'd be surprised if it wasn't like 35 or something like that. So, But yeah, I don't think I have interest in Ram stacks or Houston stacks. Pittsburgh. Not interested in Pittsburgh either. I think that this game is going to suck. Pittsburgh and Cleveland both are kind of broken down teams. They do hate each other, so it should be... they might fight again. I don't know. We're going to see. But I don't have any interest in this game for DFS. Even, I mean, let's go look at the pass splits, I guess. Pittsburgh has been lower. Okay, cool. 60% adjusted pass rate, so that makes me hate it even more. Cleveland, not much better at 62%. Red zone splits, Cleveland passing only 40% of the time. Pittsburgh does pass a lot when it comes to the red zone, so there is reason to like them in terms of Najee Harris or Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool. I don't mind a secondary stack here, I guess, of Deontay Johnson or Najee Harris. You can go Najee Harris with Jarvis Landry or Najee Harris with OBJ. I don't mind those, I guess. You know what's funny? All right, here we go. Serious time. What if you went Nick Chubb and Najee Harris? Like, what if you do a comeback that way? Because Najee Harris is the entire offense for Pittsburgh. He's basically Le'Veon Bell, and I was wrong about that. But like, what if you go Najee Harris with Nick Chubb? Because Cleveland wants to run the ball in the red zone. Nick Chubb feasibly has a 2-touchdown game. Najee Harris could feasibly have a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. And then they both get there, and it's a super weird build. And I'm drunk. So, it's pretty interesting. I'm just saying, it's pretty interesting. Urban says Agnew is the best separator on the team. I think Urban Meyer's an idiot. So I don't know if I care about that. But he has looked really good. So I'm not going to argue with that. I think, what's my projection for Jamal Agnew? I actually think it's okay. Agnew I have projected for 9.85 with a ceiling of 21. It's pretty good. It's higher than the ceiling for Laviska Shenault, a.k.a. Taven Austin. So, yeah, I don't hate Jamal Agnew. He's really cheap. He probably makes things work. Metcalf had an 80-yard TD, and they give him 2 targets the rest of the game. Carroll needs to go already. Yeah, he's a fucking idiot, dude. Pete Carroll's a fucking moron. Yeah, he sucks. Any interest in cheap running back plays like Gainwell or David Johnson are too gross? We'll get into that when we get to running backs. We'll talk about that a little bit. We're almost done with stacks. So let's get through the stacks to talk about some cheap running backs. Let's see. Okay, so Miami. I didn't talk about Miami yet. I don't think that I have a lot of interest in Miami. Oh yeah, because that's who. I messed up. Okay, I thought the Bills were playing the Houston Texans. They're playing Miami and are 15-point favorites. Jesus Christ. Okay, look, Miami has not been terrible the last couple weeks. They have been exceptionally pass heavy. The most pass heavy team in the league, 75.37% adjusted pass rate. In the red zone, they have not been as pass heavy, 59%. That's okay. But they've been really, really pass heavy. If we look at the Vegas baselines, Miami does not have a high implied team total, but they are implied for 40 passing attempts and 13 rushing attempts, 1.45 passing touchdowns and 0.48 rushing touchdowns. So, there's reason to think that somebody gets there, right? Like Devontae Parker, maybe Mike Gesicki, somebody, because they're passing a lot. So that's interesting. I don't know. For Buffalo, let me revise what I said earlier. Doing a Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, and Devontae Parker or Mike Gesicki stack makes sense. Doing Stephon Diggs and bring it back with Devontae Parker or Mike Gesicki makes sense here, not Brandon Cooks. That is my bad. My apologies. Yeah. Anyway, let us jump into the next one. I don't really want to stack Miami, but I think that the individual pieces are good for bringbacks. Jacksonville, talked about. Denver, talked about. Chicago, I'm not fucking touching Chicago, man. I'm just not. They're a really, really bad team. They're facing a team that wants to run a lot. I'm not touching them. Just fucking cross them off. Just don't even worry about them. Just fuck them. Cleveland, talked about. Tennessee, talked about. Talked about. Well, I mean, we didn't talk about San Francisco, but you're not stacking San Francisco. They're just not a team that wants to pass in the red zone. I mean, they have red zone splits. San Francisco has a... Well, actually, they have 66% passing rate in the red zone, but overall, they only pass 54% of the time. It's abysmal. It's terrible. They have no upside. So don't worry about that. Anyway, okay. So let's continue. The gulps have gotten bigger. Higgins, Pittman feel like real cheap stack, not to play stacked or not. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting, man. I think that Higgins, like, let's go over and look at his projection, because T. Higgins has actually been pretty good. 12.5 for a median, 27.9 with a ceiling. That's not bad at all. Michael Pittman, he is projected for 17, has a ceiling of 33. He is absolutely too cheap, but like he's also going to be high owned. So I don't know. I'd rather go with T.Y. Hilton. I think T.Y. Hilton is cheaper. T.Y. Hilton is 4,900, projects for 3% ownership. 3%. Michael Pittman, with basically the same projection, projects for 17% owned. So like I'd rather just go with T.Y. Hilton, even though he's super old. So yeah. Anyway, let's take a look at some cheap running backs. Try to figure out some cheap running backs, and then we'll close this out because we're running into around an hour. We'll talk about some leverage and some cheap running backs, and then we'll close this out. And I'm gonna go play some Drunk League of Legends probably. So we are looking at running backs right now. The top overall medians belong to basically expensive players. Like Najee Harris is top overall at 21. Derrick Henry is next at 21. The first cheap one that we run into is Eli Mitchell, 5,400. So I'm probably okay with that. He projects 14 at ceiling 28. I'm good with that. Muted ownership. That's fine. He does have a lot of upside, actually. His range is pretty good, going up to 28 here from 14. The next cheaper one, Javonte Williams, projects for 13. Zach Moss projects for 12. And then, I don't know, it's hard. Like, maybe Phillip Lindsay or David Johnson. They're both really cheap. If one of them ends up being, like, the guy, they're going to crush. If one of them steps in the Mark Ingram role, they're going to crush. They're going to have, like, 17 fantasy points or something like that. So I don't mind taking a risk on them if you have to. I took a risk on Devontae Freeman last week. But it's just an if you have to situation. So Kenneth Gainwell projects for a lot of ownership. I don't like him that much. I think that him and Boston Scott are going to split work quite a bit. I think that Jordan Howard is going to get a lot of red zone work. So I'm just not into the Kenneth Gainwell thing. I do like Zach Moss. I think Zach Moss is an interesting piece. I do really like Eli Mitchell. I think that he's not getting enough ownership for his price. I'll probably be living in like this range. Right? I'm good with this range. I might try some Najee Harris. I might try some Darrell Henderson. Actually, I'll fucking guarantee that I have Darrell Henderson. He's way too cheap, 6,500. I'll probably have some Chuba Hubbard. But, like, I'll probably be in this range. I'm not going to have Alvin Kamara. But, like, from here to here, I'll probably have running backs in this range. In terms of the worst running back plays, just don't play Kenneth Gainwell. Like, Kenneth Gainwell, I want to be higher on Joe Mixon, man. James Robinson looks okay. But just don't play Kenneth Gainwell, man. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be way too high owned. So just fade him. That's the only thing that I have for running backs. Let's go over and let's look at wide receivers. Let's look at who the worst wide receiver plays are according to the models. After I drink a little bit more. I'm just going to finish it. Oh, yeah. Legit drunk. Okay. The worst wide receiver play is going to be Brandon Cooks. Projected at 14% ownership, 12% negative LevX. Not great, Bob. And then Cole Beasley. Fuck Cole Beasley. We don't play anti-vaxxers in this house. T. Higgins is also a negative 10 plus, but I don't mind playing T. Higgins. I think he's okay. The only guy that I really want to avoid here is probably going to be Brandon Cooks. Just not a spot that I really want to go. His floor is okay. His ceiling is fine. But, like, I'm not going to trust that Davis Mills can get him there. Outside of that, like, I'm okay with pretty much anybody else. Cooper Kupp, I think, is probably going to be about this owned. 9K is a lot. People don't want to pay that. So I don't mind Cooper Kupp there. Let's sort this back up from medians. Let's go to tight end ranges. Tight end. Who's the worst tight end that you can play? It is Dan Arnold. Dan Arnold is okay. He's been getting some decent work, but like I wouldn't play him at ownership. I would play him if he's cheap. I guess I might play him as part of a Jacksonville stack since people aren't going to stack Jacksonville, but like I wouldn't play him in ownership on his own. Ricky Seals-Jones I think is fine. Jared Cook I think is fine. Kyle Pitts I think is fine. So yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's going to do it for me. I'm not sure if anybody noticed. There's only 10 people in this stream, but I'm wearing merch. Margaret made us some merch. Hold on. Look, I got to show you the back. I had to take off the thing here. But can you see the back? I can't tell if you can see the back. Yeah, you can. So, yeah, I have some merch. So, we're going to be giving out merch at the Pater meetup at the man, I'm so drunk. The Topgolf on November 14th. So we're arranging a Pater meetup on November 14th at Topgolf. It was already announced in the Discord. So if you want to go, please let Shelton know, D-Shell, in the Discord, and we're going to put together a list, and we're going to get some bays. It's going to be a great time. We're going to give away some merch. It's going to be awesome. So it is the Topgolf in Thornton, the newer one in Denver, or in Colorado. So that meetup's going to be a lot of fun. It takes place on November 14th. But, yeah, so let's crush this NFL slate and then have a really good time grinding NBA, which is the worst NBA DF or the worst DFS sport on the planet. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to get off and probably go to sleep because I never drink this much. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for the support. If you need anything from me, please reach out to me in the Discord. If you need any projections for any sport, go to paterdfs.com. And I will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much.